Hi, my name is Ayanna,
Hi, my name's Akua,
and this is Off the Rack.
your monthly podcast on what we can't stop talking about in the world of fashion, art, and culture.
Yay!
Woo, episode 3!
Episode 3. Can you believe it?
I believe it's been 3 months.
We released a podcast during a pandemic.
Wild.
Insanity.
A good
Insanity.
podcast.
So how are you? What's up? What's going on?
So I'm good. I'm excited about moving. I feel like I've talked about it in every episode, but
Yo, New York, moving in New York is like a to-do. So you kind of
how
have
have you been?
I'm good. I'm chilling.
You've been up
Brainwash,
to?
we're launching our shop, so that's been
Yeah,
exciting.
plug.
Actually, by the time this episode is out, the shop will also be live. So if you're listening to this,
Go buy some.
Brainwash has their very own shop. I don't know why I said their, like, I'm not, what? Anyway, we have our own shop called Brainwash Club, and all of the links to shop will be in the description box. And we have a bunch of cool vintage pieces, designers of color only, period poo. And yeah, it's just really exciting. It's a lot of work. Size inclusive, 100% important. Like double XL will be available. We're looking to get as far as like 22, 24 in the near future. So yeah, that's exciting. So by the time that this goes out, it'll be live. But as we're recording this, I still have so much stuff to do.
Much work to do.
So I won't turn my camera. You'll see like a bunch of stuff in the room.
So I guess we move to fashion news.
Yeah, that's key. What's going on?
First thing we're going to talk about is the Rihanna and Amina Mwadi collection. Super exciting. And it just makes so much sense. The best collaborations are the ones where you hear about them and it clicks and it's like,
yeah. Can we just talk about the imagery that they decided to use? Like the way they shot from the POV of laying on the ground. I don't know the technical term, but it looks like they shot it from underneath. So the person looks huge. Yeah. And I love that they shot like the model going over the grates.
Yeah. Like, I love that. I think if anything, like even if you don't like the product or you don't like the brand, Rihanna's social team is incredible. Fenty Beauty has done such a good job, like just keeping up with trends and being able to communicate in a language that doesn't sound forced. And I think just the visual reference is the next example of that, where that's been such an iconic Rihanna thing for so long, and to keep up with that and to make it look good.
Yeah. And I think it is clear and evident that fashion and skin and makeup is a passion of Rihanna, and it shines through every time she drops something. Like watching the little snippets that they shared on Instagram, the BTS clips of Amina and Rihanna going back and forth and whatnot, it looked like this is something Rihanna was probably waking up in the middle of the night, like sketching on, you know what I'm saying? Like it didn't feel like she just slapped her name on something, because she really could have, because Amina's design aesthetic is that strong that she really could have just said like design some pieces and I'll put my name on it and that's it. But I'm obsessed with them. I'm not a girl that wears heels, period, because like I will fall everywhere. But the white caged like sandal heel was so gorgeous. I think it's sold out already. I think a lot of them are sold out.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy about that.
I think to your point about Rihanna, like knowing that she's actually involved, I know with Fenty Beauty specifically, every time she dropped a product and she showed pictures from past awards or past events, and she was like, I was wearing this back then, like a year ago, and you didn't know.
It's also great marketing, because it's a way for you to figure out how people actually feel about your product without knowing that it's your product. So it's like, oh yeah, Rihanna, the lip gloss that you have on is fire, not knowing that it's a Rihanna lip gloss, because then she could be like, okay, cool, like this is a lip gloss that we can put into production. So I think it's super smart. Exciting. Okay, what else we got?
Next thing was the JW Anderson show in a box. I found out about this through Tyler Mitchell's Instagram, because I follow him, the man who shot Beyonce's Vogue cover.
Iconic.
And he shoots a lot of JW Anderson's campaigns. And so I think for this fashion week, they sent out a box with pictures of all the looks on, I think, mannequins, but they had like collaged faces. So it wasn't real people that were modeling it, which allows for social distancing, I guess. They included fabric swatches, which is just incredible because you always do have a lot of waste.
So good.
And art pieces, show notes, essentially a show in a box. And I think because we've been talking a lot and thinking a lot about the post-COVID fashion world and reinventing Fashion Week and reinventing the fashion calendar, maybe this is a viable way to go, is to send shows to people.
Yeah.
And it democratizes, it allows anyone can do a show in that way. And
I think it's incredibly smart. I think not only for fashion shows, but if we want to talk about the larger landscape of events in general, being able to have like a box of things that you can send along to people. So maybe like if you're a business or a brand that had an annual like dinner party, obviously you can't get together in that way. Maybe you can send all of the participants a box of all of the items to eat or to make or what have you. Like, I think that is incredibly smart. Love J.W. Anderson. I loved the imagery that Tyler shot. Like, Tyler's work is always like centered in from my vantage point at least, like youth and Black youth culture specifically. But I love that it was like the model standing in that, I don't know what that thing is in the playground where you're like that spinny thing. That's not the technical term, but I thought it was incredibly, I think it was incredible.
Yeah, I think to your point about being able to send people things, I think especially if you're someone who takes things in a more tactile way and you like to experience the different senses, you can send, you know, like scent samples, you can send like the fabric swatches are incredible because at fashion shows you don't get to touch the things. So that's a new element that you get with being able to do something like this. So
yeah, super smart.
Yeah. And then a huge annual announcement of the CFDA award nominees.
Ooh.
We have a couple of staples. We have Tom Ford, we have Tom Brown, we have
Tom Ford. Like, Tom Ford, are you not tired? Like,
Ford yet again.
Okay.
Yeah, so Telfar is nominated for Accessories of the Year, Accessories Designer of the Year. What else were the notable ones?
Christopher John Rogers was up for the award for the Emerging Designer category, which I'm really, really excited about. I think that he's managed to breathe a life of fresh air. Ayanna, that's not English. He's been able to sort of like something about Christopher John Rogers' pieces feel very like fairy tale, like something that you would wear to get married in, and not necessarily in white gown aesthetic, but very glamorous and feminine and beautiful. I think that his last show was completely different from everyone else, and it kind of took the world by storm, and that's kind of the show that everyone was talking about. The way he uses colors, the way that he uses Black models. Obviously he's a Black man, so duh, but I'm really rooting for him to get this look and hopefully continue on to do some really great stuff.
Yeah, I think like you said, they're clothes that you think that when you wake up and you remember a dream you've had, it sounds like those are the kinds of clothes you would describe, like a giant ball gown.
You're just running through, like, I just imagine like that look that he puts Zendaya in, like yellow gown, like her running through a field of like daisies. Ayanna, English, daisies. My God, running through a field of daisies and like looking back, you know, like one of those like dramatic situations. So I'm really excited to hear. Also, these awards kind of confuse me, like the idea that a Tom Ford, who I love and respect, is sitting alongside some emerging designer just feels like, what? I don't understand. Rick Owens being in categories. I know now this year they added 2 new international categories, which is fantastic, but also like, I don't know, it's just strange to me that a small designer would be up against some like big heavyweight. And also I don't know that there's any money attached to any of these awards. So I would much rather get the money if I was a designer.
Yeah, maybe it becomes like a, I don't want to say honorary, but something for long-standing members of the industry, and then like a separate category or a separate award for.
Yeah, because it's a bit unfair, but also like all of these awards are unfair, right? Like awards in and of themselves are unfair. I think that eventually the CFDA will lose, I don't want to say credibility, but its importance within the fashion space, just because the traditional models of fashion retail, fashion houses will sort of shift and change as the world is continuing to shift and change. So I think that it'll be interesting to see if people within the fashion industry still hold CFDA to, you know, that sort of standard of, okay, I got the mark of approval from CFDA, now I'm officially a designer.
Yeah.
So today we decided that we are going to talk about the myth, the legend, the creator of the Bushwick Birkin himself, Telfar the Clemens, as I like to say it. You feel me? Telfar the Clemens. I think since conversations about supporting Black brands and Black designers have become sort of at the forefront of online conversations, everyone is scrambling to get the Bushwick Birkin, aka Telfar's shopping bag, which Akua and I both have. Hello. And yeah, we kind of wanted to highlight the brand as a whole and Telfar Clemens as a designer, because as great as the shopping bags are and as important as the shopping bags are within the conversation of Black brands and Black design, it is important to understand sort of the background information about Telfar, the brand, and the designer, and understand why some of the critiques that people are sharing online about the production of the bags. If you understood Telfar as a brand, you would understand, like, girl, like, no. Honey,
and why those conversations aren't relevant. Excuse me.
Exactly. So just a little background on Telfar. He was actually born in Queens, Lafrac City to be exact. He actually still lives there, to my understanding, with his aunt, which is kind of insane. There's a piece in The New Yorker where he just finished his Paris show and then comes back to Lafrac and just chills with his aunt in his apartment too. But like, that's kind of a, like, what? You were just in Paris. Like, you could easily live somewhere snazzy, but you're still choosing to live in Queens. Like, well, so he was born in Queens in Lafrac City, and his family is from Liberia. He actually started his brand as an undergrad at Pace University in 2005. So he's been doing this for well over a decade. And at the time when his brand started, he was doing unisex and gender fluid before that sort of became a concept. All of the cool kids, and I use cool kids in quotation marks because you use your judgment on what you think cool is, were wearing his pieces. A lot of New York City nightlife kids that were going to like ghetto gothic parties were wearing his pieces. And actually, Telfar speaks about this a lot. Most of his inspiration comes from just the everyday person. So walking down the street or riding his bike throughout New York City and seeing someone with a tank top that's like slowly falling off their shoulder now becomes that asymmetric one shoulder tank top that he has. Seeing someone where they're wearing jeans that are slightly too big and their boxes are kind of showing then becomes his version of a drop waist jean. So he has this really strong design aesthetic where he takes his sort of everyday surroundings and turns it into something really beautiful. I think that is really, really inspiring. He talks about his design inspirations being that of Jean-Paul Gaultier, Vivienne Westwood. Specifically, Vivienne Westwood has a lot of ties to the London punk scene. So like, think plaid, think safety pins, that sort of aesthetic. What the punk kids were wearing in London were often Vivienne Westwood or Vivienne Westwood knockoffs. And there are some parallels between the way that Vivienne Westwood engages with the punk scene and the way that Telfar engages with the New York City nightlife scene, specifically queer Black nightlife scene. He also mentions, which I think is super interesting, that he is just as influenced by Jean-Paul Gaultier and Vivienne Westwood as he is with Macy's and Marshalls. And he has this really sort of poignant quote that he says in his profile with the New Yorker, that he wants to be Michael Kors but on purpose. And I think that is really important when we're talking about Telfar, that Telfar really is a brand for everyone.
Yep.
He has everyone in mind. It is size inclusive, it's ageless, it's genderless. It is meant to be worn by everyday people. He always talks about how he's much more interested in what everybody wears rather than what the rare person wears. So he has like memories of himself looking through like the Talbot's brochure and seeing what just average middle of America people would wear, and elevating that into something that's a little bit cooler, and dressing his friends that happen to be like really cool kids like Ashton Sanders, Kelsey Lou, and figuring out ways to sort of take fashion that is common and make it high fashion. So yeah, I got introduced myself to Telfar through, he did a collaboration with White Castle, which is like, ew, why White Castle? But also like, if we're thinking through like this idea that it's for everybody, we're talking to like the world at large, like White Castle kind of fits in that category. And in 2015, he made a deal with the fast food chain, and he hosted the after party for his spring summer 2016 show at a restaurant on 8th Avenue, which like, what? Imagine like having fashion editors at a White Castle. Like, I would like pay to see the faces of like Vogue editors and like Marie Claire and like whomever. I don't know why I said Marie Claire, because Marie, whatever, girl.
So for me, that's funny to hear, because I don't really have the context around White Castle at all, because I didn't grow up here.
Yeah, think like nasty. Think like 7-Eleven food. Like,
okay.
A ring below McDonald's, like just vile, disgusting.
Okay, 7-Eleven food.
Gross. But he does talk about like going to the White Castle and the Frack and eating food there when he was younger. So I'm sure that's like a reference to his childhood.
Yeah.
And then in 2017, he was able to redesign the White Castle uniform, and he actually used White Castle employees as the models for the lookbook. The lookbook is actually really, really beautiful. Like, the White Castle team members are in their homes with their kids, like hanging out. I think that's really powerful. And he used the monies that he made from the capsule collection based on the uniforms to a bail fund for minors at Rikers. So Telfar, like the brand ethos of Telfar, the brand, is for everybody, right? Like, we do this for everybody. I think on his site, if you look at the bottom, it's like, it's not for you, it's for everybody. And I think that he does a really good job in staying true to that through his partnerships, through the aesthetics, through the brand imagery, through the price point. And I haven't seen a designer like this. I think a lot of designers think that they're making clothes for everybody, or think that they're referencing ideas and concepts that the entire country or world can understand, but being able to pull from high end and low end in a way that's like, I'm not trying to trivialize like White Castle or McDonald's or like, because, you know, like Jeremy Scott, Jeremy Scott did that, the collection with the references to McDonald's, but it was like making fun of it and then making it stush, like,
kind of,
and Telfar is literally doing it in a way where I feel like he probably still eats at White Castle.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think to that, what you're saying with reference to the conversation we had just a couple seconds earlier about collaborations that make sense, I think for him, because there is a personal collection with White Castle, it's meaningful, and he's not just doing it to, like, again, make a mockery of it or to make fun of it or to make it seem silly, but he's doing it because he has a story with it. And White Castle itself, he talked about how White Castle is family owned, and how their values, a lot of the employees have been there for 10 years plus. People who are in corporate started as employees. So that makes sense to have those values and to collaborate with another brand that has those values, and to do it in a serious, meaningful way, and not just to make money or to get written about.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
and even though the food is not, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, even though the food is like, you know, not what everyone would eat, I think because it's, and in the same way, it's not like the same way you said the website says it's not for you, it's for everyone. It's also really a lot for him, kind of, and for what he wants to give to everyone. So
yeah,
you know, a McDonald's would be the easier choice, just because, you know, but he didn't go with McDonald's, so I think
disgusting.
That's
Still, I would never, God forbid. I would love to know like your introduction to the brand and how you came to know Telfar. Obviously, you didn't just learn about Telfar with the world because we're trendsetters.
So I had a friend, I still have a friend, I have her, she's existing, we're friends still, who went to Cornell with me. She graduated, which is why I said had. And she is from New York, born and raised there. And she had the mini bag in, I think the color is called tan. And I just thought it was so cute. I think a lot of people had started, mini bags were kind of coming in, like the Prada Tessuto, the like the Dior, the one with the print on it with the, I can't remember what it's called, but mini bags were coming in, and I just thought it was so cool because it was leather look, but it wasn't leather, and the like the embossed logo, I thought that was sick. It wasn't printed on, it wasn't stitched on, it was like part of it. I thought it was really cool. And then, and this was at the end of the calendar year of 2018. And then in 2019, at the beginning of 2019, kind of like February around there, I got one, my first Telfar bag. And it was a medium olive one. And I got it because kind of my friend symbolized an entry into New York in a way that felt genuine for me as a person who wants to be in the fashion industry and who wants to be in the New York fashion industry and who was interned in New York over several summers and kind of been to parties and met people and kind of wanting to be that person.
Yeah.
I also like the medium size just because I like to carry a lot of stuff. So the mini wouldn't have made sense for me. But the medium is
I have the medium size as well.
I could put my laptop in there. Yeah, ideal. So that's what the bag meant for me. And then the Met Gala happened and Ashton Sanders wore Telfar, which I also thought was sick just because I really like when people stay on theme. And he went with a design, because sometimes people go with designers and you can tell they just went with a designer because, but
that's the only one that invited them, child.
Exactly. Or the designer like wasn't going to theme but just happened to design something for that person, so they went, but it didn't matter what the theme was. But they went on theme and they went together and kind of matched but also didn't match. And I like that both of them wore wigs and they wore earrings and they wore, it was like Victorian references.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really cool. And then I came back and then I was here, and then I kind of just started seeing more runway pictures and hearing about people started doing genderless stuff more. And a lot of people referenced him as kind of the originator. I know Hood by, I can't remember, but I think I heard about them more through Hood by Air as well.
Yeah, which fun fact, Shane Oliver was Telfar's first boyfriend.
And they're still friends.
And they're still friends. So as Hood by Air is coming up, so is Telfar, which is so kind of like sick. Like, what?
Yeah, and I think I heard of them both together in context of creating communities in New York. So that was my introduction. So it's it's really meaningful to me, the bag, in a lot of different ways. It was kind of my first, not luxury really, but my first more expensive purchase. And I remember being so anxious about spending that much money on it, but it felt good.
Yeah. And it's at an interesting price point where not necessarily cheap. No, like, for a fact, like some kid in Bangladesh isn't making it, but it's not necessarily it's not like one, I don't know, it sits like at an accessible luxury price point, which like I always have problems with, because like, what does that even mean? But the mini bag is 150, the medium I think is 200, and the large is 300, which most designer bags, you're not even getting any designer bags until you hit like the 5-6 mark.
Exactly. And the large is huge. Yeah, the large is really big.
I can fit in the large, okay?
Yeah. In my bag.
Literally, I'm in my bag. I think what became the turning point for Telfar's career was the CFDA Fashion Fund. So kind of what we were talking about earlier, he's been designing since 2005, like all the cool kids within the underground scene within New York specifically, and I'm sure other places as well, are starting to pick up on Telfar and wear Telfar around. He's starting to dress people. I think the Met Gala happened post CFDA, but still, he's still dressing some of his friends that happen to be people like Kelsey Lou and Dev Hines, people that were coming up in their career. So that's also an interesting parallel there. But in 2017, he was actually the recipient of the CFDA Vogue Fashion Fund, which they do every year, and they award a new designer each year. And the Fashion Fund was an award of $400,000.
Yeah.
Which, when you hear that, you're like, yo, why? $400,000 is so much money, but within the world of design, like, you're spending $400,000 like that. Like, before I even finish the statement, it's already spent.
Exactly. You have to pay the people you have to pay a web designer, you have to pay.
Design is so much more expensive than people recognize, which I think contributes to the reason why there are so few Black designers within luxury spaces that aren't attached to a big fashion house.
Exactly.
But the $400,000 he used to put into production the Telfar shopping bag, which I think was in existence pre-CFDA, but he probably had one colorway and 3 sizes. And after the CFDA Fashion Fund, he was able to release a slew of colors, and each bag comes in 3 sizes, and they're all modeled after the Bloomingdale's shopping bag. So again, accessibility, right? We're talking about being accessible for all people. Okay, the small bag is meant for like nighttime. You're going out with your friends, you're going to a party. You don't want to carry a big bag, but you need to put your phone somewhere. That's what the mini bag is giving. The medium bag is giving like, I'm going to work. I need to put my laptop in there. I have books to read, things to do. Exactly. She's giving that. She's giving
productive.
And she's productive. The large bag is definitely giving like overnight, like weekend bag. It's giving like carry on, like, you know, she's giving like, I'm traveling. That's what she's giving. Or I'm going on set. I have to put, you know what I'm saying?
That's very true.
And I think that after he invested the money into the shopping bag, that's when his brand really took off. And the model has always been like, he releases all the colors and all the sizes, a specific amount. They get sold, and everything's sold out within a day or two. Right? Like some of the more strange colorways. I don't want to say strange, but some of the more
out there,
bright, colors like the yellow doesn't necessarily sell as quickly. But if you're talking about the black and the white and the tan, like you need to be on the site like as soon as they drop. And that model of like, we release a certain amount of units, it's available for this 24 hours, 72 hour, whatever, and then that's it, has always been Telfar's business model. I think people are kind of turned off now because they're like, I don't understand like why this bag is taking so long. Like, why can't Telfar use all of the money from the surge of sales because of Black Lives Matter movement and pushing for Black design? Why are they not using that money to invest into the production and give us more bags? Well, accessibility doesn't necessarily mean like flooding the market with things. Like, Telfar does a really good job about making things accessible, but without overproduction. Like, it doesn't make sense for you to be making 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 units of bags. Like, it's bad for the environment. Like, we have to recognize like the bags are vegan leather, which really is plastic, so it's not necessarily the most sustainable bag production. So keeping that in mind, why would he be making a bajillion units? Like, and it's not like a supreme drop or like a sneaker drop where if you don't get it that day, it's over.
Like,
if you don't get the top, they always come back. It's like, they're coming back. And
I think Ryan Finn, who I love, we
love her. Ryan, if you're listening, you need to be on an episode with us, please.
She did a couple voice notes on Twitter the other day talking about why there's the conversation around wanting Black designers to have resources like a Nike does or like a big brand does, and people, I don't know if it came from the Telfar thing, but people getting upset that, or people not being able to, people getting upset, that Black designers can't produce at the rate that, or at the scale that large companies does. And she talked about how those companies are often exploiting people, and so we shouldn't really want Black designers to be able to produce in that specific way, because then it just becomes Black designers exploiting people, which would suck. And so, like, as much as we do want for some people want for the bags to get produced faster and for there to be more of them, maybe this is capacity. Maybe this is the way he can produce that he feels good about, that isn't going to hurt people, and like that's just it. And to try and force people to compromise on that just because you want a bag and you want it now, and everyone has one, so you want one, is sad.
Yeah,
not sad, but people are just used
sad.
to it. People are used to just getting things and people being exploited for things. And I think Telfar is important because maybe it'll change. The Telfar bag specifically is important because maybe it'll change that for people, and people will take a second and think, okay, I want this bag and I want to support this person, but the bags are not available right now, and that's okay. And when they are available, I'll get one, and I'll get one eventually. And what's the rush, you know?
And I think it's also important to note that Telfar isn't just an accessories brand.
Yeah.
Telfar doesn't just produce shopping bags. And I don't mean like, that's the technical term of the bag, the shopping bag. He has clothing that he sells. They sell jewelry. Really cool, they sell really cool clothing at a really, I don't know how I feel about using the word affordable, but at an accessible price point. Mm-hmm. He has the logo caps, the mm-hmm. belt, like there are so many other products that they're producing that to just from a business standpoint, for them to invest all of their money into ramping up production of one item, eventually you're going to oversaturate the market, and then the market is going to no longer care about this bag. And then now you don't have any other products to introduce to the market because the market only sees you as this bag designer. Yeah. And Telfar is so much more than that. So much more than that. Yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on this idea of accessibility and mm-hmm. what makes Telfar so special within mm-hmm. the context of the word accessibility, the idea of accessibility. Mm-hmm.
So I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is price point. As much as it's an easy way to define accessibility, I think price point was really what brought me to the brand in a way. Because I think if I had first seen the bag and it was too much for me, maybe that would have been it. You know, maybe I would have just been like, okay, I can't afford that and move on. But I think having that price meant that I could buy into the brand, and people would see me and know that I had bought into the brand. And I think in terms of being accessible, it's also in his design philosophy and also in the clothes he makes, because sometimes you hear about people who talk about runway shows and they say that's not wearable, or that's not, who's going to buy that, who's going to wear that, that doesn't make sense. And his stuff makes sense. He makes polos, he makes jeans, he makes hoodies, he makes beanies, sweatshirts, and I think sometimes people who aren't really in fashion, certain things aren't accessible just because they're not usual. And so he kind of is accessible in that way, that things are regular items, but they're also cooler regular items, and they are interesting regular items. I think that's important because they're, like a polo shirt, like the backwards polo shirt. I thought that was really cool. So sick. Who wore that? Someone wore that. Someone from Ray Shremmerd, I think it was one of them.
Really?
Yes, I think he wore it.
I think so.
I think he wore a full Telfar look, and I thought that was so sick. And it was just a polo. It's just a polo shirt, but it's backwards. Yeah. And it has a pocket.
Like so simple. Like just this idea of like you saw someone on the street and their tank top is too big, so the strap is falling off, and then you created an asymmetrical tank. Yeah. Like that is so basic, but mm-hmm. really, really special and really cool. Mm-hmm.
And I think in terms of the way he talks about accessibility, this is going to be controversial maybe, but I think Telfar is a more genuine off-white, because I think Virgil's always been the person who talks about his background growing up in Chicago and about how he was never a fashion person, but now that he's in fashion, he wants to give fashion back to the people, the kid he was when he was that age. And he wants to marry luxury and streetwear, and he wants to make clothes for this person and this person and this person. And yes, I can agree with that. And I can see that through the Nike collaboration, and through, his stuff with IKEA, and through all the different ways that he's collaborated with people. But Off-White, and also through his design with the use of the industrial stripes and the what do they call it? The rip tags? tags, the orange tags, and the apostrophes. It's just, it's things that we see every day. And so these things are, when he designs with them, it's things that are, okay, I've seen that before. That fits into what I know about anything before. But I think, like, his stuff is expensive. I don't know, it's accessible in the way of design, but in terms of price point, I don't think it's accessible. And I think Telfar has done that really well, where the design is beautiful, but it is also accessible to a certain point, more so than an Off-White.
And I don't think, to your point, right, I don't think Virgil really had an answer as to why his price points are so high, and if he feels comfortable with this idea that the market that he's claiming to create for can't afford these pieces. Like, the most someone can afford is like the Off-White belt, like that yellow belt, and even that belt, I don't even remember the price, maybe it was like $200 or so. Like, for an average college student, like, let's be honest, like $200 on a belt is a lot of money
for a belt. Exactly. It's not even a bag is different, a belt.
Yeah. So I something about the way that Virgil thinks he's creating for the culture, and the way that he's actually creating for the culture, like, there's that cognitive dissonance happening, right? Like, your experience with streetwear is you taking the train from Chicago to New York, observing what the skater kids and the cool kids or whatever are doing, pulling inspiration from them, taking their ideas and their aesthetic and putting it into a space of luxury, and now you're completely pricing them out of being able to,
trying to sell it back to them.
And try to sell it back to them. So I think it's important when we have conversations about Virgil to recognize the nuances in that, but I can't say, like, just, I think he should just say that he's not creating clothing for kids. Like, you're not creating streetwear for the culture, whatever like buzz phrases that you think you're doing. And Telfar is actually, not only is he a part of this community of like kids running around in New York, going to Mood Ring and going to Poppy Juice parties and going to like Ghetto Gothic, but he's also creating from that vantage point and creating goods that make sense not only for that niche, but for his aunt, right? For his family, for like elders that he sees shopping at Marshall's. Like, what high fashion designer references Marshall's as an inspiration? Like, and actually mean it. Like, Telfar is actually not only pulling from his community, but he's a part of the community in a real way. I think even before it became cool to do so, like, similar to what you were saying earlier, like, he's been doing genderless since 05, right? Like, he's been thinking through this idea of masculine and feminine energy. He's been using proceeds from his garments to give back to his community, whether it's for trans lives, whether it's for young Black lives. He actually, I had a friend tell me that they saw Telfar at a march in Brooklyn, just like chilling with his friends there, supporting trans lives. Like, that's regular behavior for Telfar. And I think that he's accessible on all fronts as a person, as a designer, as a brand. And I think that there is no other accessible luxury brand. I mean, like, that's a big statement to say, but I don't know of any other accessible luxury brand that exists in the way that Telfar does.
And that's doing interesting design in the way that he is.
So when I found out about his collaboration with Gap, I was like, oh my God, this is so perfect. Like, you want to talk about Americana? Like, Telfar is consistently pulling influences, and that might be because he is a child of immigrants. Referencing like these big American brands is something like really interesting to him, like White Castle. He had a collaboration with Budweiser. So to have Telfar with Gap just made sense, because like you said, he's really just making everyday pieces. It's hoodies, it's t-shirts, it's jeans, and those are all things that Gap is known for. And if he wants to be Michael Kors on purpose, he wants to be in as many markets as possible.
Everywhere,
So Gap just made such, I was like, yo, I can't wait to buy Telfar Gap hoodie. Like, this is going to be great. And that collaboration was set to release in 2020, but due to COVID, obviously that had to get put on pause. Gap actually sent Telfar an email on March 18th to let him know, like, hey, due to COVID, because of production, blah, 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 we're going to push this collaboration to 2021. And then 2 days later, after that email was sent, they offered him a 25% advance of his design fee because he had already started working on the collection.
The boards had been up.
Yeah. So that was like, yo, like, I know you've been already working on it. I know you took a hit in terms of the monies that you spent to put these pieces into production. I'll give you, Gap is saying, I'll give you 25% of the design fee as an advance, and then we will proceed in 2021. And that happened to be the last conversation that Telfar had with Gap, and Telfar said that they kind of just ghosted him. Like, they kind of just like went silent. And on June 26th, Kanye announced that he has a 10-year deal with the Gap, with the option to renew after 5 years. And Telfar found out on June 26th that Gap was doing a collaboration with Kanye West. So what are your initial thoughts? Because I have my personal thoughts, but I'm curious to know what you thought when you found that out.
I was like, okay, because he has talked about Gap a lot. He referenced Gap a lot, Kanye West. And then I heard that Mwadi was going to be design director, and I was like, oh my God. But also conflicted because Kanye has said some things that I don't really agree with in the past. And so I was like, oh, darn. And then I forgot. And then someone tweeted about the Telfar thing. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember being really excited for that. And then Diet Prada posted about it. And then people were conflicted about Diet Prada's wording. I didn't see an issue with it. People felt like they were pitting Mwadi and Telfar against each other. I didn't see it that way. And I also don't think, and it isn't that way. It's not about that. It's about Gap's monumental mess up. They just happen to be the people who were involved. But yeah, I wish, to be honest, for me, I think a Telfar and Gap, I think I was more excited for that. But it's also understandable why Gap went with Yeezy, but it also sucks the way that they did it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think my initial thought, and I think I had posted this like immediately after seeing Kanye post about the collaboration, squints and Telfar, right? Like, what does this mean for your relationship with Telfar? I think in many ways, a Kanye West or a Yeezy collaboration with Gap makes a lot of sense. Kanye talked about working at the Gap. Like, he always referenced the Gap in terms of wanting to work with them.
If you think even feels like the Gap, some of the
exactly, that was my exact point. Like, a lot of the Yeezy pieces are athleisure. It's sweatshirts, it's biker shorts, it's things like regular everyday wear. So I'm not necessarily mad about Kanye or the Gap choosing to sign a deal with Yeezy, because Gap is really suffering in terms of like their coins right now, right? Like, if you think through where you'll find a Gap brick and mortar location, it's usually within like a mall setting or like a shopping center. And unfortunately, a lot of those things, because of COVID, got shut down. Now that the world is opening up, these things are slowly opening, but people aren't necessarily flocking to the Gap, right? And the Gap understands this, and they know that Yeezy things, Yeezy shoes, Yeezy apparel will move and it will sell
easily.
And
especially if
it will sell
at a
out.
Gap price point.
So I think for the Gap, it was merely a money play. I think that they also thought that maybe a Black queer designer from Queens by way of Liberia isn't necessarily the most accessible person compared to a mega artist from Chicago who worked at the Gap. So I can understand, but I can't respect them just pulling the plug on Telfar and not even giving him a heads up. And now you're putting him in a weird space where it's like, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, and it wasn't like the Gap collaboration was just like, he had mentioned it on his Instagram account. Like, there was full on like video, like
At the
there was
party, I think.
ads, like, yeah, like this is a huge deal. And I think that for a small designer like Telfar, Gap would have, similar to what the CFDA Fashion Fund did for him,
Yeah.
I think this Gap collaboration would have allowed him to break into markets that weren't on the coast, markets like the Midwest, you know what I'm saying? And I think that shame on the Gap for doing that, and shame on the Gap for it like, it took the world being like, yo, this is whack, for the Gap to even come in and pay that design fee. And the fact that you just ghosted him, and then knowing that he's going to see this Kanye drop, like he's not gonna miss that. I don't know. And the irony in the Gap choosing Kanye over Telfar because of it's the easier, safer choice. And now, given the circumstances that Kanye's in, right, like he's going through his own manic episodes, and I don't really want to touch on that too much because I'm not a psychologist, but Kanye is going through his own personal issues, and that's going to impact whether or not consumers flock to go buy
I think shares dropped and stuff when he started.
Because you have to recognize, like, tweeting. Kanye has his core fan base that'll follow him wherever, it doesn't matter what he does. But if you're talking about the average customer who's walking past a Gap store and sees Gap X Easy, and they're like, yeah, no, I don't like him. Or,
and
no,
Gap always has been more traditional. Exactly. When you talk Americana, like you said, very core, like basics, family.
And I would have just loved to see what Telfar would have done with that. Like,
imagine like Gap polo. That would be so cute.
I just see like the big Gap logo hoodies, like distressed. I just see like a reworked Gap tote would have been fire.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Really cool Gap deconstructed denim would have been sick. It's unfortunate that Telfar didn't have the opportunity, but what do you think is next for Telfar now that the bags are kind of exploding? And the Gap collaboration is no longer, and he's obviously not going to show in Paris anytime soon, or maybe he is. I'm not sure. But what are your thoughts?
So I think, like you talked about, I want people to see Telfar beyond just the bag. And I want people to support Telfar even when they can't get the bag. I think it's not fair for people to say that just because I haven't been able, and it's frustrating. I'm sure it is frustrating. I mean, I
can't relate
from a position of privilege, but I think I can imagine it's incredibly frustrating to really want the bag and to not be able to get it. But I don't think it's fair to get on wherever and say, oh, like he should be doing this with the money instead, or he should release it in a different way, or I didn't get the email, or whatever. Like, I don't think that's nice. It's not, it's fickle to support someone, and as soon as you can't get what you want from them, to turn on them and to decide to badmouth them. However, even if you're posing it as constructive criticism, I don't think that's fair. So I hope people continue to like follow Telfar on Instagram, share stuff that they post. They share cool like content, you know, read an article about Telfar, go to buy something on Depop. I've been eyeing the Century 21 Telfar beanie for ages.
I forgot he did Century. Yo, Telfar is
very cool.
Insane.
Yeah, like buy something or read something or share an article with someone. I think it beyond the bags, Telfar is a really sick brand, and with a person who seems really genuine and really nice if you read about him or if you watch any interviews with him. And so I want people to keep doing that. Do I want him to do another, like something similar to a Gap and Telfar? Like, do I want him to be with a big retailer? I don't know. I think it would be cool. I think the right person, it could be cool. Like a Gap could be cool, but that's not happening. I don't want it to go back to Gap. So I don't know. With the right person, it could be sick. But I respect his like sticking by producing the bags the way he wants and I respect artists who can decide what they're going to do and stick to it and not be pressured by people. So I hope whatever that is for him, I hope he continues to do that. It seems like he has a really cool team and a cool group of friends. His creative director looks really incredible. So I hope his team continues to grow, and I hope he's happy. That's what I want. Oh, that's so like at the heart of it, because yeah. What about you? What do you think is next?
I think that Telfar will begin. These are my predictions. I think Telfar will begin to expand his accessories line. So as you see, he dropped the logo baseball cap, the belt. I see him doing maybe another type of bag, some more jewelry to just give more offerings for folks that, oh man, I can't get the bag, but I can get a hat that's also equally as cool. I can get a belt that's equally as cool. And I think that collaboration is just at the center and the core of who Telfar, the brand, is and the designer is. So if it's not the Gap, it's going to be someone else, right? And I think it'll be like, Telfar would collaborate with Kmart. Like, Telfar would collaborate.
I think they actually I think I read somewhere that they were courting, like there was a minute where they were talking about it.
I really want him to partner with a big fashion retailer, like, I guess not retailer, but brand like the Gap, that will allow him to break into some markets that have no idea who he is.
Yeah.
Even though, like, I don't necessarily think he needs it, but I know that is his desire as a designer, to be as big as possible and as accessible as possible. So I'm trying to think through like some other brands similar to the Gap, but not the Gap. But yeah, like any mall type brands, any like big All-American. Old Navy would be sick.
Old Navy, I feel like there's someone
but it's
else.
also owned by the Gap. So
yeah, exactly.
I hope that he is able to recoup the monies that he would have made by writing orders in Paris.
Yeah.
I know for the most part, which I think is incredible, that Telfar is direct to consumer. Like, all of his orders, all of his product is sold specifically and exclusively on his website. I know he had like an exclusive colorway with was it Essence or was it Opening Ceremony? The orange bag. Yeah.
Was it the red one?
It was orange. I don't know. But I like the idea of him continuing to do like exclusive colorways so he can like alleviate some of the pressure of doing the sales. Because I think, to your point, I love that he's not allowing us to pressure him into expanding super fast, because then what happens is, okay, cool, now instead of 500 bags, he has 5,000 bags to ship. Now everyone's gonna be mad that, like, where's my bag?
Yeah, now it's
not shipped on time. Where is it? Like,
it's always something.
Just be patient. It's like, you're gonna get your bag.
People aren't used to having to be patient for things. People are used to 2-day shipping, or people are used to, being able to track things as soon as they order them. But it doesn't always work like that, and it shouldn't.
And like, let's be real. Like, this is a bag we're talking about. Like, you're not going to die. You don't need it right now. You don't need it before an event. Like, you're not going anywhere. Like, just chill out. Just relax and be thankful. And if you're someone who says and you champion Black designers, Black design, be happy and celebrate that a Black queer designer is at the forefront of fashion at the moment.
And is selling out every week.
And is selling out. That should be something that you celebrate rather than get frustrated by. Even though I can understand you want your bag, when you want your bag, you're trying to get your bag, you can't get your bag, but it'll come, it's gonna come out again. It's gonna get released again. Like, you're gonna be able to get the bag. Just relax.
And whoever's reselling them for $500, stop it.
Bad mind people.
If you're listening to this, stop that, because it's not good.
It's not good.
Bad mind, stop that. We don't like that behavior. Let everyone enjoy it. If you're going to resell it, sell it for the cost of you having to ship it to the person. But
yeah, man, reselling a mini bag for $300 is bad work. Like, that's bad work,
bro. I mean, I would. Yeah, no, the mini should not be costing that much.
I'm not buying no 300. I would buy it for 200. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, for sure, because that's taxes and all that stuff. Yeah, it's like, more than 200. I'm sorry.
Wicked so people, them wicked.
Stop using bots and those things.
I would also love to see folks support Telfar's other pieces. Like you said, that's like another big goal of mine. It's not a personal goal, but I would love to see people rocking Telfar hats and belts and tees and hoodies the same way that they rock the bag.
Yeah, agreed.
So yeah, that's the Telfar talk. Big Telfar talk.
Telfar talk. Oh, I love
Telfar
that.
talk.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
What are some cool brands you're following at the moment?
So cool brands. I love Dose Swim.
Ooh,
So
love
cool.
them.
I first heard about them through, they did a collab with Opening Ceremony, I think, last year.
Yeah.
And I just think the swimsuits are so cool. And they just started dropping this year's collection, summer or something.
Yeah.
And they're really cool. They're decently priced. Sometimes swimsuits are like crazy.
Yeah, I used to work in swim cha, and I'm like, you bought a $300 swimsuit
for this fabric, and it's like they're cool, vintage inspired, high cut on the legs, high waisted. Yeah. I love a high waisted brief.
Love a high waisted.
The
prints are gorgeous.
Very cute. Yeah, Black owned.
Love them.
Yeah. The Petsa, they did most recently. Maybe people will have seen her dress on Nicki Minaj during her maternity shoot. The one that was the David LaChapelle one.
Yeah.
With a huge circle behind her. It's incredible. I think the Petsa did they're from whoever owns the brand. Sorry, I don't know, but it's based on it's from a CSM student, Central St. Martin student. It was part of an MA show. Their whole idea was kind of like the wet look is kind of their signature thing. And they did a maternity collection, which is maybe what Nicki is wearing. I'm not sure, maybe it's custom, but their stuff is beautiful. It's like incredible how it's sculpted, and I don't know, it's giving like Mother Mary.
Yes, tease.
Is it child of Madonna? Madonna's child?
I
don't know. I'm not gonna make that reference because I don't know it, but but it's very giving sculpted. Looks like plaster, marble, like very beautiful. And then the next one is Amari Carter, an American designer, Black designer, but also went to Central St. Martin's. And she does, I want to say, it's not really shapewear, but it's kind of, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
Kind of like hosiery, but not,
but really cool and really, but she's still really small, I think. But I'm excited to see what happens next. And I don't know if she's gonna, I don't know. Her stuff is beautiful though.
There's a designer that's based in Houston that makes all of her pieces herself, and it's called BU. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's a sustainable, ethical brand. And the pieces are gorgeous. Like, she does a lot of like natural crop tops and like dresses and trousers, and they're all pretty affordable. Like, they have this flower top that is stunning. It's $55, which I think super accessible, all made by hand, all made in Houston.
Oh, cute.
And it's like this backless, like ruffle number, super gorgeous. And she's actually very young. The designer, her name is I don't know her name, child, let me not butcher it. But BU is a brand that I'm really locked into right now. Obviously Dose Swim, I actually got introduced to them. How did I get introduced to Dose Swim? I think I saw Mel Renee wearing a piece, and then I also saw one of my friends wearing one of the swimsuits. I'm like, oh my god, this is cool. And she's like, yeah, this is so cool. Some other brands that I'm really rocking with right now are just like homies. Cold Summer is a brand that my friend Tyrell runs. He has like really cool socks and t-shirts right now. He just did a drop of socks and of a bucket hat, which was really cute. I'm a fan of all of the Brainwash Club brands, obviously.
Brainwash is gonna be, I'm so excited to see it. I mean,
it's so good. We have a designer named Andrew Kodama. His brand is called Nose, and he is Japanese. He's based out of Oakland. He's actually an educator by day, but he does a lot of design work. He screen prints everything himself. He hand dyes everything himself. Really great guy. And his pieces are fantastic. There is a brand called Omi Amore, and she is based out of Queens, and she does these sick candles and art, very New York City inspired. She does like these really cool prayer candles, but instead of like having like a saint on them, it'll have New York women do it better, or an image of little Kim like squatting and it says power on the top, like something really cool like that. And we have a Brooklyn-based brand called Sade Shania, 2 Black girls who do ready-to-wear, really feminine, soft, pastel colorways. They have this sick bag that we only have 2 of them, and I'm so sad because like I want to keep both of them. But they make all of them their things themselves. They're 2 friends. They live together. They went to school together. They went to design school together. So those are my brands that I'm rocking with right now. So many others, but we'll talk about them as the shop comes to fruition. So excited. Really excited about you guys shopping with these brands and supporting these brands and allowing these brands to grow authentically and organically. And what we're doing at the Brainwash Club is not only creating a space for them to be able to sell their goods on, but also working with them in price points and lookbooks and really investing in these brands as they're coming up so that they can go on to a bigger platform, a bigger stage to the world, whatever they want to do. So yeah, that's what we're doing over here, baby.
Stay locked in.
So where can they find us, Akua? Where can they find us, keep up with us?
They can find us on Instagram at Brainwash Media, Brainwash X Media.
Brainwash X Media.
I should know this. Brainwash X Media.
Yeah.
Brainwash.club, or is it just Brainwash Club?
Brainwash.club. I would like to get Brainwash Club. So
if you
haven't DMing the person, like, hello, you haven't posted since 2019. I need your pitch.
Yeah. Yeah, and then my name is Akua Ayanna. I'm on the Brainwash page a bunch. So
and that is her real name. So like, that's her real name. She's not.
Her real name.
Yeah.
Where can we find you on Instagram? Let us know.
Don't find me. Actually, I don't.
Don't find you.
Don't find me. You can find me at Brainwash X Media, Brainwash.club on Instagram, and Twitter is Brainwash X Media, Brainwash Club.
Yeah.
And follow us on all streaming platforms. You can listen to us on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Play,
everywhere.
Spotify, literally everywhere. And you can watch us on YouTube.
Because we're cute.
So we're cute. So again, make sure you stay locked in. If there are podcast episodes that you want to hear or conversations that you want to hear us talk through, please let us know. We do a bi-weekly series on our Instagram called Fashion Facts, where we do little 1-minute videos on different fashion topics. Last one was on fast fashion. The next one will be on ready to wear. And then the one after that will be on the fashion buying calendar. But if there are things that you would like to learn about, please let us know. If there are episodes you'd like us to have, please let us know. We're looking to eventually do mini episodes so you guys can listen to us twice a month instead of once.
Lucky you.
Lucky you. So let us know, follow us, at us, post us, the things, all the things. All right.
Thanks for listening.
Off the rack, gang, gang.
I'm gonna get an off the rack tattoo.
That'd be so sick.
That would be cool.